Hi, welcome to the session on historical recordings. Making sure my camera goes up here. For some reason I got something else here going. This is Steve Ram. I'm the treasurer of ARSC. Glad to be the treasurer. I want to welcome all the newcomers, the first timers. Make sure you check out the lounges afterwards. They're open 24 hours, so the people overseas, please come join us. Our speaker here is Dave Giovannoni. Dave's known to, let's see, I'm sorry, I have to bring this up. Yep, Dave Giovannoni, known to his ARSC friends as the Geo, has been an ARSC member since 1979. He's served 3 terms on ARSC's board of directors. He's been honored by ARSC with the Distinguished Service Award in 2019. Sorry about that. Cancel phone calls. There we go. Sorry again. In 2019, as part of the First Sounds Cooperative, he played the earliest playable sound recording at the ARSC conference in Palo Alto in 2008. He's been collecting records all his life, and they can be heard on the Library of Congress's National Jukebox site, UCSB's Cylinder Audio Archives, and on many historic reissues, 20 of which have earned Grammy nominations. Dave recently launched a website to share his personal collection with the public. Yesterday, he spoke about how the Music Modernization Act makes this site possible, and he's here now to introduce the library at I78S. He will be in the lounge. Look for him at a table after the presentation. I'm honored to call Dave my friend and anxious to hear about his amazing site.
Thank you, Steve. Record collecting is an avocation shared by many ARSC members, and I'm one of them. Over the years, I've built a working library approaching 50,000 recordings, ranging from the 1890s through the 1930s, both cylinders and discs, mostly American, primarily pop. I've always enjoyed sharing records with family and friends. I also furnish transfers to the National Jukebox, the Cylinder Audio Archive, record producers, documentarians, and others, because I believe a collection must be shared to be of value. Today, the general collector has a number of options for making his or her collection publicly available. There's the Internet Archive, YouTube, Facebook, and so forth. But I believe a well-curated collection has an identity, a focus, and the integrity of that collection gets lost in the noise when you scatter its parts onto platforms that let anybody upload just about anything.
Let's go ahead and give it a listen. 107-year-old recording.
So with all of this in mind, I said to Ezekiel, my lead programmer, hey, let's build a website to host a record collection from scratch. I've got a few ideas. It took a couple years of really fun part-time work, and the site launched just a few days ago. The address is I78s.org. That's I78s.org. It's not a fancy social media site. It's just a simple interface that offers access to over 35,000 records at the moment. And by the way, it'll grow to 45,000 records once a few more cylinders are digitized. I think I recognized that record in the YouTube video. Yeah, I got the same recording here. Let's hear what it's supposed to sound like. When you enter the site, you'll see an empty screen. It's just waiting for your input. There are several ways to explore the library. Let's start with special collections. The library is recognized for its pioneer recordings, And with a single click, you can scroll through the American Berliners, for instance, all 2,200 of them. Ah, I see a title I want to hear, Geisterfunken. Clicking on the title brings up the blue card, which has basic discographical information for the record. Let's get it playing and then explore the record a little bit more. We can see it was recorded on November 17, 1892. It's an anonymous piano solo. Too early to be Fred Gaisberg, but noteworthy nonetheless, as it's the very first American piano recording to be issued commercially on disc. In fact, we're looking at the very first American disc record label. Here Berliner lists his first 2 American patents and claims that other patents have been applied for. Curiously, his typesetter made a slight mistake and claims that other parents have been applied for. It just goes to show the unpolished beginnings of the American disc industry. By the way, we could have gotten to this record much more quickly by going up to the search box and typing in some identifying piece of information. I'll just type Geister here. See how we went right to it? Maybe the National Jukebox has sparked your interest in Victor Pre-Matrix records. The site gives you access to over 2,700 of them. Notice how we can explore records while still listening to our last selection. This was one of our design imperatives, to allow somebody to parallel process their exploration and their auditioning. We can always go back to the record we're hearing with the Show Info button. You can also browse by label. We have them broken up into cylinders, acoustically recorded discs, and electrically recorded discs. Now you can go right to a label and click on it, and the site will bring up all pressings held on that label. Live search also works for labels. Let's look for Jeanette, for instance. We see the Jeanette label itself, but then we also see a number of Jeanette products, many of which were made for the Ku Klux Klan in the 1920s. And that brings up an important point. Please be aware that ethnic stereotypes, racial epithets, certain cultural movements like the Klan are rampant in the collection because they were common at the time. A number of online sites suppress such content. No content of any type is suppressed from the I78S portal. So please, be prepared to experience American entertainment as it was, not as we might wish it to have been. Let me type Christmas in here. You may know that in 1923, Jeanette released a series of 10 special Christmas records. One of my favorites is by Mitzi Hayosh. See what I just did there? Within Jeanette, I'm looking for Christmas records made by Mitzi. You can also filter on any one of these fields if you wanted to look just for a work or a title or a catalog number and so forth. But most of the time, the general search will get you where you need to go. Note that the record has a third tab, Supplemental Materials. Here's an ad for Jeanette's special Christmas greeting records, and we can also see the nice presentation sleeve in which Mitzi's record was packaged. Wouldn't that make a nice gift? Supplemental materials aren't limited to retail packaging. For instance, here's a great document that I found many years ago at the Edison Historic Site. In the spring of 1911, Mr. James Laurier was moved to write Thomas Edison to say, "If you knowed some of Ada Jones' singing, you would not have it in your house. She is singing Kissing is a simple game. You take that record and play it, and see if you think that is a fit one to send out through the country where there's a lot of innocent little children growing up. I've been to a lawyer and got it played, and now is going to send it to headquarters and see if such stuff as that is allowed. Anyone around here says she can be arrested the way that lady explains herself."
The expert and the novice play the same.
So again, look for supplemental materials to help put some of these recordings into context.
Oh, kissing is a simple game.
If you'd like to send us a letter about this record, just click on the envelope and we'd be happy to read your feedback. Click the share button here for the permalink, copy it to your clipboard, and there you go. This collection has informed a number of discographies and can certainly inform more. For instance, L&C is the abbreviation for Leeds and Catlin, a pioneer company whose full recorded output has yet to be documented from observed pressings. Here we see 280 Leeds and Catlin matrices. Let's narrow our search to sides recorded by Arthur Collins. Okay, 100 of them. And now with his partner, Byron G. Harlan. All right, 41. Again, you could see how we can drill down to exactly what we want with just a few keystrokes. Leeds and Catlin produced some pretty cool labels. You may be seeing some of these for the first time. The collection contains pioneer recordings unavailable anywhere online. Even the backsides of discs are shown where they have significant information. That's as close as I can get to putting the record in your hand. Let's go into discographer mode for a second. Now we're able to see the matrix information for each record. We can sort by that matrix information. And now we could see where Leeds and Catlin released the same matrix on different labels. Here's one done on the Imperial label. Here's the same exact matrix on the Sun record. Let's go back into our previous mode. You can customize the site several different ways, giving it various personalities based on what it does and does not show you. We were just in discographer personality. There's also what we call a music lover's personality for folks who aren't too concerned about the discography, but are very concerned about the recorded content, the music. We default to the collector and archivist personality. This is probably the best balance of information for most people. We saw how the interface builds on searches and lets you drill down to exactly what you want. You can also expand out at any time by removing terms. So for instance, we can get rid of the Leeds and Catlin constraint to see a list of all 629 Collins and Harlan recordings in the collection in a single list. Again, the goal is to make it quick and easy to find what you're looking for. You can even use wildcards to make your searches even more powerful. Here I'm using an asterisk between stars and stripes to find both variations, stars and stripes with an ampersand, stars and stripes with the word and. Or you could do the same with ragtime. Ragtime was spelled a number of different ways. Rag asterisk time will give you all of those variations. So for instance, RAG dash time, it caught those. RAG space time, it caught those. And then the most common spelling, RAGTIME, it caught those. Use the wildcards. The asterisk means any set of characters. The question mark stands for any single letter. A few years ago, Lift Every Voice and Sing was added to the National Recording Registry. Its first recording was published on Black Swan as the National Negro Anthem. Whoa, something's definitely wrong there. The engineer chose to transfer the recording in the key of G at 78.3 RPM. Now that makes perfect sense for a piano solo. In fact, the piano sounds fine, but we can hear the voices are dragging, lethargic. This speed is probably too slow. A quick web search confirms the song was published in A flat. That's a semitone higher than G. No problem, we can fix it. And as a result of this correction, we now know that the speed at which this recording was made, which of course is the speed at which it should be played back, is something closer to 82.9 RPM. The fact is that most records in this collection were made before 78 RPM was adopted as a standard. Even the widely accepted cylinder speeds of 120 and 160 RPM have proven to be nominal recommendations at best. Any pioneer recording could have been recorded at virtually any speed. So as we study and interpret these recordings, it's important to get the speed right. Now, my engineers and I do our best, but when we make mistakes, as we did here, this little slider gives you the power to fix them. Pioneer recordings pose yet another basket of challenges that can make them both hard to listen to and interpret correctly. The scratchy, thin sound of an acoustic recording is pretty iconic, but they don't have to sound that way. Judicious processing can take out the clicking, the crackling, the pops and the thumps that get between us and the performance. We can also apply some intelligent equalization to bring heft, depth, and air back into the audio.
If I should take a notion to jump into the ocean, ain't nobody's business if I
Now, all transfers on this site are to TC04's highest standards of preservation. And by clicking this button, you can hear a mono version of the preservation transfer right off the record. But a little intelligent processing lifts the veil of noise and sonic deficiencies. In this way, we get much closer to the performers and their performances. 78s and cylinders don't have to sound bad. You've probably noticed that as we play a record, it gets added to the bottom of the play queue. We can actually go back and replay every record we've listened to today. We can also add records to the play queue to be played later. Let's switch the listing to give performers dominance. Here we see two Edison Diamond discs of Matson's Creole Serenaders doing the same song. The first on an A matrix, the second on a C matrix. Let's add both of those to the queue to play later. And then maybe we want to go out with Bessie Smith. Let's put her down into the queue as well. So here you have the queue. You can move records around, change their order. One copy of this Collins and Harlan is enough. We can get rid of the duplicate. Then you can save the playlist. Call it whatever you want. Come back anytime later, it'll still be there. It's a great research aid. So there you go. I hope that's given you a good idea of what the library of historical audio recordings at I78S can provide. Like I said earlier, it's not really for the Facebook crowd. It's a tool for cognoscenti, like you, researchers, historians, discographers, musicologists, folklorists, collectors. Come on by, you're welcome anytime. I think we have a little time left. I'd be happy to use it to answer any questions.
Unmute, and I'm all set. Except you can't see me, although you don't really need to see me. Sorry about that, folks. Anyway, we got a couple of questions, and bear with me here. Actually, I'm going to turn off my camera for a moment till I get it fixed. Sorry about that. You can watch this picture. Anyway, let's see. We have 2, 3, yep, pending. Good, okay. Accepted, pending, good. And then click that one. And now, bear with me. Here we go. Sorry, this is not working. I'm reading from the bottom up at this point. Mark Atnab asks, can you briefly address the development of the software and interface that was developed for the I78S.org site? It would appear too highly specific to be simply a modification of existing software. I'm working the questions backwards, so we'll have time.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Mark. We built it from scratch. I had a very clear idea of what I wanted. Ezekiel, as the co-designer, brought a lot to it. So we can talk about the technology. We're happy to do it in the lounge right after this, and get as far into the weeds as you'd like with that.
Okay, now I'm back to the beginning here. Eli Bildinci, if I'm reading correctly, sorry, Eli. How many people worked on this? You didn't make it single-handedly, right? What does the back end and front end run on? Did you write your own CMS, comma, 2, question mark? Sorry, I'm simply amazed.
Thank you, Eli. It's good to hear from you. Again, I'll tell you what, I mean, yes, it was all built from scratch, running on a little server out there in the cloud somewhere. And the biggest challenge was content. That's a lot of records. So there's been a whole lot of challenges like that. But technically, it seems our goals, our design imperatives were many, but I guess the overriding goal was to allow very fast access into a fairly large collection. I mean, you can start with anything from Columbia 20th century cylinders. I made a little special category of Edison Mexican and Puerto Rican cylinders because I just love them so much. You can look at stuff by year. Here's our 1892 Geisterfunken, for instance. So all of these, and then of course by label. Kerry Janelle actually had a great use for this yesterday. He's doing research on the 15,000 series, Columbia's. And I must have typed something wrong because they're not coming up. But you get the idea. We can go to by special collection, by label. There we go. So he was able to inform his research by looking at, the collection's holdings. There are over 300 of those, and just for fun, this is the last Columbia D, 15,000 D release. So I'm sorry I wandered a little bit away from the thrust of your question, but I'd like to reserve technical questions for the lounge if we could. And Ezekiel's here, my co-designer and lead programmer, to answer very specific questions about that for you.
Okay, now they're coming in. Matthew Rose asked, fantastic website, particularly enjoyed the Berliner recordings on it. What are the latest issued 78 RPM recordings available on the site? Good question.
Yeah, they go through 1939. Not everything is coded by year, but I'll show you what 1939 brings up. Couple Roosevelt things, and it's very cool. Oops, clicked the wrong one. This very cool Paramount News. Maybe I should have saved that for last, huh?
Okay, let me see if I can bring up the questions again here. Sorry about that. Okay, Mark, we're going to go through them quickly, I guess, because we're going to run out of time. Mark Atnab asks, can you briefly address the development of the software and interface that was developed for this site? It would appear too highly specific to be simply a modification of existing software. If you can do a quick question, and we'll meet you in the lounge afterwards?
Yeah, that's a meet in the lounge afterwards question.
Okay. Anonymous user, and I'm sure that's the reason why. What do you do with the login information? Do you have a privacy statement? Very good question.
There's a privacy statement in, I can't get to it because you're in the way. There we go. There's a privacy statement up here. I have to move you out of the way, but we have a terms of service agreement, and we have a privacy policy stated right here.
Okay. David, which is the Reiner asked this question from Germany, where it's nighttime now. David, which is the play button?
This one down here. When you double click, Reiner, good to see you virtually. Always a pleasure. Let me pull something up here just quickly. Let me pull up Bert Williams, my favorites. When you double click on anything that comes up in the results pane, it will automatically begin to play. You can also drag it down into the player, which I just did there.
Let It Alone, sung by Bert Williams.
This is your play pause. This is your speed. And in this case, I applied capstan to the record because it was so terribly, there's a lot of lathe drift in this record. It actually changes key as it goes along. So you could hear that happen in the preservation transfer if you let it play out. And the resulting RPM, there is no single RPM for this record because the speed's always changing. So after it's been corrected, which it has been, the average speed is 156.2 RPM. And that speaks to my earlier point. 160 was the nominal speed for this record. It certainly is nowhere close to that. It would sound.
In going through this iron world, it sometimes acts of you.
So if you know Bert's voice, you know that that's not it.
Okay. We have like 2 or 3 minutes left, so I'm going to run through these quickly. Related topic, Bill Doggett asked, David, is the complete Black Swan, Broom, and Black Patty here as well? Yes or no?
Bill, I wish I owned the entire set of brooms and Black Patties and Swans. If you know anybody who's selling it, let me know. But we do have, whatever I have is here. So let's see. Tim Brooks has my last broom, but we do have some Black Swans.
Okay, well, maybe we can meet in the chat room for that, or the lounge, because we're running
Sure.
out of time here. I just want to throw out the other quick questions if they're yes or no. Is there a way to determine the proper speed of each recording? Carrie Janelle wants to know.
Excellent question, Carrie. My engineer or I, when I've transferred the cylinder, have put any musical cylinder, excuse me, any musical composition into key. Sometimes we even look it up, as my engineer should have done with Lift Every Voice and Sing.
Another quickie, David. Again, I hate to move these things, but we're going to run out of, they're going to kick us off here. Brad McCoy, who loves it, wants to know if it's sortable by matrix number. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. William Madison asked, does the site have many records outside the US? Yes or no? Okay. Roy, I'll read his thing. Roy Bogger says, I came in a little late. Any plans to incorporate the bibliographic information so users can copy citations? Roy, may I suggest also, you can ask in the lounge, but you can go back for the next 30 days and watch the whole presentation. So that's important. I do want to remind people again about the lounges. I'd like to have people that are the first time here come over and see what the lounge looks like. Let's see, I did have, here we go, it's closed up. Okay, we have 3 minutes, I think. Why am I done this? We still on here? Okay, maybe we're cut out. I can't open this. Okay. Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, I don't know if my camera's on. See you in the wine lounge, folks, and enjoy the conference. Thanks.